Want to welcome everybody to our final summer learning series session. We've been doing them all summer long for professional development. Raise your hand if you've been to one of our summer learning sessions over the last couple of months. We've had great attendance and a nice conversation, learning all about different skills, email skills and phone skills and all kinds of employability skills that we can share with students this year. And today we are doing CTSO competition prep. Let's just kick it off. Go in the chat and tell us, what CTSO do you advise? Tell us which one you're a part of. Let's see the variety of groups. FBLA, skills, FBLA. What else we got? Skills, FBLA, skills, FCCLA, 4-H club, BPA, TSA, DECA, HOSA. Excellent. Just joined DECA, says Beth. Oh my goodness, Alicia does all of them. Wow, that's a lot. So what we're going to do today are talk about some communication best practices for competition, regardless of the group that you're a part of or that your students are in. Hopefully you can apply these lessons across the board. And as you know from being here before, if you're a returning webinar guest, we make it really practical, and we also give out the resources that we cover so you can bring them into your classroom beyond watching a webinar. And that's what we're going to do first. As we always do, we start with some free resources to share. How many of you are here for the first time? Raise your hand if you're a first timer to our sessions. We always have some new people, and that's great. We appreciate you coming too. So let's first start off with giving out some resources. Let me step back. My name is Danny Rubin. I'm jumping right in, like we're all so familiar. I'm in Virginia Beach. My colleague Mac Dowd is Virginia Beach as well. And we are from the Rubin Company. We provide online resources for business communication skills. Mac, you can hop into the chat and close down your video, and we will get ourselves going. I always start with the same question, so folks who are new understand what we focus on, one of our key skills that we teach. Instructors, raise your hand in Zoom if your students sometimes, maybe all the time, send you emails that look like text messages. Any hands for that? Emails like text messages. Okay, so one of the big things we cover is how to write professionally, how to speak professionally to open that next big door. And so we're going to cover some skills around presentations today, but that's who we are. We really get into the nitty-gritty. We teach students how to communicate with step-by-step instruction. And to that point, let's first kick it off with some resources to share with the group. Okay, so I just shared my screen, and we always put together a Google Drive of resources. How many of you have received our Google Drive resources before? Any hands up? We pass them out every time. And today we're giving out resources related to what we're going to cover today, CTSO competition prep. We're going to cover topics today like, should you sit or stand during virtual presentations? How do you remove and like from your public speaking? Storytelling strategies for business pitches and job interviews. Number one tip to boost your resume and how to improve your elevator pitch. Show of hands if you feel like these topics will help students improve their competition skills. We want to make sure today we are hitting on across all the groups you showed us, DECA, FBLA, TSA, skills, all of them. We want to cover topics that you can apply in all of these organizations at all of your various competitions this year, whether it's in person, fingers crossed, or virtual. We know that's probably coming too, or a mix of the two. Okay. So for these resources, and we've always add in this one too, we have a checklist for online presentations for the new folks here, how to prepare for online presentations, what to do before you speak, and as you deliver that presentation. A checklist, a great reminder for competition, for class presentations, whatever it is. So, and Liz already requested it. She knows our routine. So for those who would like these resources, and we're going to cover them today, please go to the chat, type interested and your email address. It's the simplest way for us to get it out while we're all together. Interested and your email address. And for those who are new to our community, as I always say, the goal is to have a 5-minute conversation so we can understand what you're teaching or advising and help you incorporate these topics into your rhythm of the school year. Okay, if you're new to us, we'll pass it along. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're returning to us. If you are new to us, we'd love to have that conversation. So if you're new, we will send you an invitation for a brief phone call in the next couple of days, pass it along, and you can use it all year. It's free. We just want to get it out into the classroom and have that conversation to help you make sense of it. Okay, so thanks for those putting their information in the chat. You can keep that going. I want to move down the slides, a couple more slides, and then we'll dive into our session today. All right, now, how many of you came to our virtual internship webinar series last school year? Any hands for that? Who was with us last school year for our virtual internship series? Well, guess what? Back by popular demand, we are bringing it back. We have a whole new set of webinar conversations. For those who don't know yet, we do a once every other week, so twice a month, conversation, a live conversation with someone in a different career field. We have a heavy focus this year on non-traditional roles and different pathways. Our first session will be Wednesday, August 25th. It's 2 weeks from today at 12:30 Eastern, the world of the trades, with a woman named Nicole Shanks, who is in workforce development at an electrical contracting company in Valdosta, Georgia. Okay, so she is worked in the field. Now she's in like HR workforce development. She'll talk to us about why working in the trades is a viable career path and for men and women. Okay, and that'll be our kickoff. And I'll give you a little sneak peek. Okay, we're going to put the full schedule out next week. But let me just, if you want to mark it on your calendar, anybody here teach sports marketing or related sports related or even business marketing sports? Okay, September 7th. And I want to make sure I get the date right. It might be 12:30, but you'll see it next week. We're talking to someone from the Dallas Cowboys about working in sports marketing. How about that? Anybody interested in that? Hands up. Talk to somebody from the Dallas Cowboys live. So we're going to have a really awesome series of speakers this year and guests. And this is our first one in 2 weeks, and they will all be recorded. Yes, everything we do is recorded. So just sign up when you see the registration come out. And if you can't make it, just get the recording, okay? So we're going to have a lot of fun with that all fall, every other week. I want to point that out. Those of you who are here now, students too, the teacher can pass it to the students, will give you a certificate for being here tomorrow morning. You can even put your name on it. There's a field for your name. Okay, so look out for that on Thursday morning. And those of you who will watch this webinar on a recording, you can still receive the resources I mentioned. Email us at support@rubineducation.com and use the subject line Rubin CTSO worksheets, and we'll get it to you that way. Okay, so those are our housekeeping notes. Always new stuff from us, new dates on the calendar, new stuff coming. So I want to make sure you are all aware. Now let me close this off. And thank you, Mac, he checked out I believe you watched our video game development. And by the way, we're bringing that back too. We're doing another webinar this fall on how to create video games. That was a huge session last time, so we are bringing it back. Let me get the right page up that I want you to be on. There we go. All right. So let's get into our session today. I want to bring up my chat again. We can all see my screen. It says Rubin up here. Can someone confirm that? It says Rubin up in the upper left corner. Okay, thank you very much. So we are the Rubin Company. We provide online curriculum for business communication. The curriculum's called Emerge. Some of you have seen it before, some of you have not. We're going to pluck topics out of our broader curriculum today. We cover a wide range of communication skills: email etiquette, life skills, phone and video etiquette, networking, resumes, cover letters. We'll talk about storytelling shortly. Internship and job outreach emails, job interview preparation, LinkedIn lessons, job interview skills. We're going to talk about one of those. Business promotion, we do all these topics you see here, communicating to promote a new business. And we have lots and lots of lessons and guides on leadership skills. So those of you who are watching who are officers, or you want to be an officer in your CTSO, we're going to touch on some of these skills, and we have more in our full program on communicating as a leader. And this program integrates to all major learning management systems: Canvas, Schoology, Google Classroom, and more for single sign-on. So that is what we do. Now let's go into our material and talk through some lessons together. and we're going to try and get through all these tabs, okay, while we're together and take our time and learn some skills for CTSO competition. Let's first start off with a creative exercise that teachers could do at the start of the year to make sure that all future virtual presentations are successful. The student looks his or her best. So how many of you expect, show of hands, to have some form of virtual competition this year? We live in very uncertain times, and it's certainly likely that as much as we want to have in-person everything, we may end up with some virtual presentations, virtual pitches. That just might be where we're at least in the fall. Who can predict the future right now, right? So one thing that you may want to consider having your students do is to create a personalized virtual background. Has anybody done this with students before, like for Zoom or Google Meet, to make a personalized background that students can create for themselves so that it's not just a classroom or a bedroom or just any random space? It's more of a space where they can promote their own brand and their own title and what they've achieved. So what I would encourage you to do is to go to an art tool, like a graphics tool like Canva. There are many other tools, and we have some listed here if you want to take a quick peek at our list. There are lots of free tools out there where you can create your own background image, okay? And even in Canva, it's very easy because there already are several templates that you can modify that look really nice. You can change the colors. You can use the CTSO's colors or a logo or a school's logo, whatever you want to do. And you can put your name and title, perhaps. So when you put yourself on a screen and you're presenting, think about all the criteria judges are scoring on, right? So much of it is just perception. How does that presenter make you feel as a judge? Do you feel that the presenter was in control, that they had a plan, that they prepared? And don't you think that seeing a background with your name and your title would show preparation, right? And how many of you believe, and how many teachers believe that preparation is the key to success, right? Yes, doing a great job in the moment, obviously that's important. But who's been watching the Olympics over the last few weeks? Who watched the Summer Games in Tokyo? Does preparation matter in the Olympics? Can you just show up game day, race day, swim day, and just win? No. It's about all the time before. And that's what impresses the judges too, because it comes through. So creating your own background is one little thing that suggests I prepared harder for this day than other people did. And right out of the gate, the first time they even see you, they're already giving you points in their mind because you're looking more professional. And you can use it as a branding opportunity. Put your title in your CTSO or what you hope to achieve beyond school. It's a fun exercise, but it also has a lot of opportunity when it comes to competition and being judged, okay? Because what I love about competition, and I hope the teachers will agree, is that there are winners and losers. Raise your hand, teachers, if you believe that in life there are winners and losers. We can't just get participation trophies forever. It's good to someone gets first, second, and third, and someone doesn't, right? Because that's the real world. You don't just get hired. The employer doesn't hire everyone who applies because everybody's really nice. Someone's getting hired. Someone's winning that scholarship. Someone is going to get into that school and someone is not. So we have to teach our students that if you want to edge somebody out, you got to do more. You got to bring it harder. And this is one way that will give you that edge. Before you even open your mouth or you start on your skill or whatever it is you're competing on, this matters. So I hope you'll start the year by helping them make their background and then having them pull it in whenever that moment arises, when it's time to present. Okay. And by the way, if you have questions or comments along the way, throw them in the chat. I have it open, so I'm keeping watch and happy to have a conversation about these skills as we go through different topics. Now, let's get into the presentation itself. On the topic of virtual presentations mostly, and thank you, Lisa. Make sure we're commenting with, it says everyone, not just hosts and panelists. Lisa says it's important for students to understand the value of competition. It instills work ethic. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's stay focused on the virtual side for a moment, and even in person, if should this come up. I want to ask you a question. Right now, do you think I am standing up or sitting down? Right now. Am I standing or sitting? Max says standing. I'm seeing a lot of standing. Why would you say that I'm standing up? I didn't tell you I was. Why do you all think I'm standing? A couple said sitting. That's okay. Maybe I'm doing a really good job planting my feet. Why would you say I'm standing? What would suggest to you? You only see from here. Oh, Debbie said it. Voice projection, energy level and posture, more engaged and active, says Sue. That's right. You made all the points for me. All the reasons why you should stand versus sit for a virtual presentation are everything that the room just said in the chat. You're more active, you have more energy. In a past life, before working in educational curriculum, I was a TV reporter, TV news reporter. And every night I'd go on the news and I would be on live TV somewhere out in the community, covering something happy, something sad. We know what local news looks like. But every time I was standing up. I wasn't sitting down in a chair or sitting in the grass or sitting at a table. I was standing up at the microphone. By standing up, we project. I believe that by standing up, we breathe more easily so we can project out to the room. And when you're presenting at competition, whether it's virtually or in person, you are projecting to an audience. Right now, I'm projecting to all of you, even though I can't see you, but I know you're there. And we have to remember when we're presenting virtually, you have to imagine the audience is right in front of you. And you have to reach all the way in the back, right? The person in the back has to hear us. So standing up gives us the best chance. So the two best tips I can give you before you even get into whatever it is you're about to say, when it's virtual especially, have a background unique to who you are and stand up. So before you even begin, you are ahead of the competition because you're going to, behind you for your presentation will look professional, and everything you say will have more confidence, you'll project, and it will be stronger than those who are sitting. Because when we sit, don't we kind of slouch a little bit? We might spin in our chair out of nervousness. I would encourage you, when you are standing, keep your feet planted. Don't shuffle your feet and don't swing. That's a nervous habit many of us do when we're speaking. We tend to kind of rotate, right? We want to stay nice and firm, facing the camera, squared up, but stand the whole time. And Carol said, it looks like your shoulders are square, right? So this is, again, these little tiny things. We talk a lot in these webinars about the little stuff. The little stuff holds the biggest importance. And a lot of what we're doing today are little things, little tactics that will instantly make the judge say, I like this young person. I like how they carry themselves. I haven't even heard their message yet, and I already like it, right? You're already a step ahead because I just like your whole vibe, right? And that's half the battle, right? How many of you have been judges in competition before? I've been a judge. I've been a Skills USA judge. I've been to DECA competitions. And you just get a vibe about a student. You're watching them, how they carry themselves, how they speak. That's almost as much as it is what they're saying. Is it not? Who believes in what I'm saying? That what they're saying matters, but how they say it also matters. How they say it matters. The words are almost secondary to how does it feel receiving the message, right? So that's why I'm spending so much time at the jump here on just our whole way we go about ourselves. That holds so much importance, not just for CTSO competition, but as you know, we're always here. We're looking out 5, 10, 20 years. We're talking about life in here. You want to command a crowd. You want to speak to your team. You want to run for office one day. All these skills matter, do they not? They all matter throughout our lives. Thank you. Mary says she judges FCCLA star events every year. Thank you, Mary. All right. One more thing about how we evaluate ourselves. before we get into things we're going to say, let's focus on, again, how it's perceived. I believe deeply in critiquing how we look, how we sound. I watch these webinars back. I've been on live TV hundreds of times in my job. I watched those back. Why do you think I would watch myself? You think it's because I'm vain and egotistical and just love to watch myself on TV? The answer is no. So why do you think I would watch myself back after a presentation or a story? Tell me in the chat, why would I watch it back? Especially at that age, I was in my early 20s and I was just hungry and I was very raw. That's right. Max says to get better, to improve, to evaluate yourself. But how many times have you heard yourself say or other people say, oh, I can't stand the sound of my own voice. I don't want to watch myself on camera. Oh, that's so awkward. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I don't want to do that. Have you ever heard people say that? Oh, I hate how I sound. I can't do that. Oh, no. But how will you know what to work on if you don't watch yourself? Take an honest look at yourself, especially at young ages. How can you get better for the next competition if you don't know how you did the last time? So what I would encourage you to do is during practice, like practice presentations, and even when you do a real presentation and then you watch that back, I want you to go through this checklist, which we can provide, that says, my arguments were solid and logical. Were they or were they not? Were you making any sense? Did you veer off? Did you go into some random side topic and you lose your focus? Did you say like, and you know a lot? How many of you have heard speakers that say between every sentence? Any hands up for that? I know I have. And over time, all I start to hear is what? If the person says between every sentence, what's the only word I start to hear? I almost can't even hear him anymore. And by the way, while we're on that topic, the simplest way, and it's one of the lessons we'll provide you, the simplest way to not say is to do what I'm doing right now. What did I just do? What did I just do again? Between my sentences, what did I just do? That's right. Thank you for your comments. Pause, silence. A sneaky little strategy that will win over the judges and the crowd. Can I tell you what it is? When you pause between sentences and make no noise, the silence brings the audience to you. It builds suspense. They are waiting for what you will say next. When there's an between every sentence, there's no time for the audience to prepare for the next line. So pausing has secret value as a presenter. Being quiet and then talking is a huge advantage in presentations and competition. We want to judge ourselves. Are we talking too fast? Are we rushing? Are we handling the judges' questions the right way? Is there energy in our voice? Are we moving in a strange way? Is there an odd mannerism? It's critical to go back and evaluate ourselves so the next time we know what we do wrong or how we can get better, and we're aware of it. Bottom line, we have to be aware of ourselves. We will never get better if we don't let other people tell us how to get better, and if we don't take an honest look at ourselves. We have to take an honest look at ourselves. I've seen too many people in the professional world, people who are on TV every day for a profession, for example, or people who are executives, who make the same mistakes, have the same bad habits every single day of their professional lives. And why? Why do they keep making the same mistakes? Because they're not reviewing their own performance, and people become too afraid to tell them to fix it because they think that'll just make them mad. Or they're scared to. They have a bigger job than they do. And you can never tell your boss to stop saying 50 times in 10 minutes. You'd never say that. You might get fired. They'll be mad at you, whatever. This is the moment. While you're in school, you're in competition. That's what these competitions really are for. The awards are great, and I hope you win them all. but it's the skills you will possess to take you to that next phase. That's what this is really about. And it comes down to being honest with yourself and being willing to watch it back. As tough as it is, as awkward as it is, this is where winners happen. Who agrees with me? This is where winning happens right here. This is where the winning takes place. Off the camera, before the competition, you know, as they say in athletics, in the gym, right? Doing the work, putting in the work. You know, who agrees with me in that? Doing the work. Can I tell you one of my favorite new corporate slogans? And then we'll get to our kind of getting into the weeds of what to say. One of my favorite new slogans is from Under Armour. Does anybody know Under Armour's new slogan? It's been around for maybe a year. I've seen it. Anybody know their slogan? Has anybody seen it in their ads? I love it so much because it's so true. It's called "The Only Way is Through." The only way is through. What does that mean? The only way is through. Through, THROUGH, not through, but through. I love that because it says the only way to get better is to do the tough stuff. The only way to get better is to go straight through it. There are no shortcuts. There is no sneak way around. There's no way to get to first, like by cutting corners. You got to do the work and you have to tough it out. And you have to do more than other people, even though it hurts, even though it's hard. And I love that because that's exactly right about sports and about life. And in this case, about competition. Okay. So, well, I realized I already got into our situation. So we'll pass this on to you. I dove into it early, but again, it would be great. And I'll give the teachers an activity with this. This is sort of an extension of what I just said. And this would be great before competition, is to have students prepare to give their presentation on whatever it might be and keep counting how many times the students say, like, and you know, in their presentation rehearsal. Truly, like sit there with a counter and count it and work those words out of their vocabulary before the live presentation. How many are willing to do that? How many have done that before? Diana says many, many times. This would be, again, that tough love. The only way is through, right? This is what it is in real life. The application is to say, we are going to work on pausing between our sentences, not saying so that we can do it in a safe space, rehearsal, practice before the lights, camera, action, because that's what this is about. So I would love to have you try that out and truly work that skill out, work that habit out of the students before they graduate. And then they'll take that public speaking skill into the world. And we can't even begin to understand the opportunities that will present themselves to our students if they're the best speaker, the best presenter in that whatever room they fall into next. We're talking about real life at a company, becoming a manager, becoming an executive in a nonprofit or at a community organization or running for office or whatever they want to do. Being a good speaker wins the hearts and minds of the audience over and over again. So this would be such a wonderful skill to drive home while you have them. Okay, so I think I've hit that one enough. Oh, let me see this comment from Matthew White. My high school English teacher did this with us during a 1-minute impromptu speaking challenge. We drew our topic out of a hat on the way to the podium. And as soon as we got there, we had to talk about the topic for a minute and got discounted for ums, uhs, and likes. I remember drawing hot dog water. I love that. Kudos to the teacher. It's a great idea. It is a great idea. It's like impromptu, but your students are already preparing to present anyway. So just drive this home. Standing up, the energy, getting rid of the ums. Again, preparation meets execution. You can't lose. Can't lose. Thank you for sharing that, Matt. Very much. Okay. Now let's get into some tactical strategies for what to say. Once we work out how to say it, let's talk about what to say. How many of your students in competition do business pitches? Pitching about projects at school to judges? I want to focus for a second on business pitches, sharing projects, explaining what students have been doing. The best way to explain the value of your work and to captivate the audience is a strategy we talked about in our webinars many, many times. It's an S word. Who knows what I'm getting at? We want students to tell what? It's an S word. Can you tell me that word in the chat? Thank you, Keith. Stories. Stories, stories, stories. There's no better way to prove your point, to hold someone's attention than to tell a story. Like Matthew White did in that chat. Great story. It was really short, but we enjoyed it. And I bet you'll remember hot dog water an hour, 2 hours after this webinar is over. That's the power of stories. So let's look at how you could tell a story in a business pitch competition or to discuss a project that you worked on, explaining to the judge why it mattered and how you arrived at that project or product or whatever it is you're encouraging them to understand. We want to put our experience in the context of a story. So in this example, we have an ebook in our curriculum called Wait, How Do I Promote My Business? And imagine this is a business pitch type competition where you're talking about your business or your student project. And we're starting off with telling the origin story. We all know the Marvel universe, talk about origin stories and how characters come to be. Well, let's talk about how a company or product came to be. People love origin stories. So let's follow this story with me. Every fall, I would feel the chill in the air and see the leaves begin to sway in the trees. I would think, oh no, here they come. As a native New Englander, I know raking leaves is a fact of life. But year after year, the task became tougher and tougher on my back. It seems we've done the work the same way for generations. Rake the leaves into piles and move them into yard bags. There had to be a better way. Who here's watched Shark Tank before on ABC or CNBC? And they always, all this contestants say, there had to be a better way. And then they say, and now there is, right? Here's my thing, right? So then we explain, we outline the problem, the pain point, the vulnerability, and then we explain the solution, right? In fall 2018, I decided to experiment and I purchased thin netting material and measured the width and length of my yard. I laid the netting across the lawn, so lightweight and see-through you could barely notice it. Then I watched the leaves start to fall. Then once the leaves blanketed the yard, my son and I grabbed the corners of the net and voila, we raked up all the leaves in a matter of minutes. That day, Acme Net Raker was born. Now, this is something that I made up for the book. Not a real product. Maybe it could be. I don't know. But do you see the process we went through? We start with the problem. We hook the reader with the problem. Oh no, here they come. Now, if you're the audience, if you're the judge, what are you thinking when I say, oh no, here they come? You say, who's coming? What's happening, right? What's about to take place? You have the audience, what's the expression? Eating out of the palm of your, what's that word? The palm of your what? Eating out of the palm of your hand. Within 5 seconds, you've got them. They are locked in. You're telling a story, there's a problem, there's a situation, and they're like, what's happening next, right? And you take them through the problem, you take them through the solution, and by the end of that pitch, they understand the problem you solved, the solution you created, and why it matters. And how long would it take to tell the story that I just read you if we just did it straight? Probably 30 seconds. And then you can get into the product specs and all the things, the audience you're going to target and the pricing and all the things you have to cover. But we start off with that boom. Problem, solution, problem, solution. But within that problem solution, are we telling a story? Did you see a story? Was there a narrative in this example, right? We're painting a picture. You can visualize the person frustrated about the leaves. You can picture the person solving the problem. So think about for your own competition pitches, whatever you're about to work on this year or you were working on last year, how can you put your experience or the problem you solve in the context of a story? How can you explain a customer journey through your product and the problem you solve for that person, or the problem you solve for yourself? Many businesses start by solving your own problem, and then other people want to use it too. So raise your hand, teachers, if you would bring this storytelling approach into the classroom for competition pitches. We will provide this in the Google Drive document, okay? It makes sense to the group what we're doing here, following this guide, following these, step one, or section 1, section 2, section 3. We try to be very, very prescriptive in our instruction, giving examples. Follow this, follow that. You got to put in your own words. You couldn't get on stage and say the exact thing I wrote. That would make no sense. That's not your company. But you can use the model. You can learn the strategy. And it's the exact same strategy that many people on Shark Tank use, where they lay out the problem. Sharks, have you ever done blank? Sharks, has this ever happened to you? Have you heard that before? Sharks, have you ever been in this situation? Right? This is how you do it. You tell the story, and you offer the solution, and then the judge is like, fantastic pitch, right? So I hope that you'll take that into consideration for your students in whatever CTSO they're pitching within. Stories win the day. Now let's keep the storytelling theme going. How many of you will help students with the job interview competition category in your CTSO this year? I know in many CTSOs, there's job interview, job prep, and also resume, which we'll talk about in a second. So we see some hands up. Again, I want to give you another way to approach stories. And in this case, job interview, okay? So we talked about interviews before in many previous sessions, but we have a different angle today because it's competition. What are some of the most classic questions that employers will ask you at a job interview? What is like the #1 question you think every employer asks? Tell me in the chat. What's a classic question? They sit down, look at your resume, look up at you, and they say blank. What's that first question? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Okay, I would say, like, why should I hire you? Or tell me about yourself, right? That is such a broad question. Tell me about yourself. Or like, or Kelly said it, why do you want to work here? Or why should we consider you for the position? Or, just like, who are you? Why are you here? Why do you want to work here? Right? And what do we say? It's like such a big question. It's like, oh, I'm really interested in this field, and I think your company's amazing, and I'm a really hardworking person, and I'm just really passionate about this, and I would be really excited to be part of the team. And is that the kind of answer we typically would get? Just lots of things like that, because that's our sort of default condition, is to just say like these big things. Because it's like, how do I answer a question that big? Like, how do I tell you who I am, like in 30 seconds in a way you're going to understand? Like, I don't know what to do with that, right? That was a challenge until now. Did I just show you my problem and solution right there? Did we do it again? Did I just do it again? Right? Let's do it again. And this time, let's talk about how you answer that question, that big, broad question, in 30 seconds in a focused way that will not only win a competition, but might just land you an actual internship or job. So what I want students to do for competition is to practice answering these broad questions with stories. What kind of stories are we talking about? Stories of past challenges, stories of overcoming obstacles, working through situations. As we talked about from Under Armour, right? The only way is, someone finish that quote for me. The only way is that T word. What's that word? The only way is what? Only way is through. And you have those stories right now. You have them. We have to learn to share them in interviews. So let's look at an example. Okay. Let's go to this one, a real world example of a very generic interview question, like, what's your greatest strength? That's another classic one, right? I think my greatest strength is I'm resourceful. Actually, I have a story about that. A year ago, half of our team at the nonprofit got sick with the flu. It's an 8-person team, so we were down to 4 employees for an entire week. We also had a huge program the same weekend, a jump rope for health event with over 250 children. With only, excuse me, with only 4 of us in the office, we had to use our time and energy wisely. I handled online signups and coordinated with the caterer. I directed 2 of my coworkers to oversee the awards presentation and music. And our 4th coworker was our intern, Casey. I quickly taught Casey how to work the phones and answer questions from parents and the media. We worked hard that week, but the 4 of us got it done, and the jump rope event was a success. So I'd like to think I can rise to the challenge, even with limited resources or staff, and not miss a beat. And the boss says, wow, what a strong manager, what a strong potential hire. So we took a very generic question, and what did we do? What was our answer? Instead of just leaving it at resourceful and saying, I'm a really resourceful person, I work hard, whatever challenge comes my way, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to fight through it, but we don't give an example. What happens now? What do we think about the person now? Does this person seem like someone who we want to hire for our team? What do you think in the chat? Should we hire this person for our team if we were hiring somebody right now? Or if we were a competition judge? Do we like this person after hearing that story? Absolutely. The story tells us everything we need to know, right? So think about it in the context of competition. And everybody's sitting down, answering the judges' questions, right? The same way. I'm really passionate. I'd be really excited to work at this company. I think your company does amazing things. I'm a hard worker. I fight through challenges. I'm ready for whatever. And this person's like, can I tell you a quick story? Boom, this thing. And then it's like, well, if everybody answered in a generic way and only one person gave a story, who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to win? Max says they're judging hundreds of people. Who is going to win? Liz says the storyteller will win. Because who are you going to remember? At the end of the day, you're looking through all the scoring, the criteria and judging all the students, and who are you going to remember? And isn't that the whole thing about it's being memorable all our lives? It's just to say, I was here and I did something you're not going to forget. So this comes back to that P word, preparation, right? Because you can't just show up on stage and rattle out this story. You have to practice this story. It has to be your game plan going in. It's not just a spur of the moment idea. So what I would encourage the students to do before the day arrives, and we call it in our program, My 3 Stories. I want you to have 3 stories ready. 2 stories that showcase you under fire, in a tight moment, stressful, and 1 story about something, a funny story from your personal life, a funny situation or a funny thing that happened to you or a trip you went on or something interesting outside of quote unquote work, right? Outside of your obligations. So you're ready with 2 good stories about who you are in the sort of work mode and 1 about the kind of person you are, because you never know when you might need it. You come into that interview having practiced those stories. You have them. I would even encourage you to have the 3 on a list like this in front of you. So if you get nervous in the moment, you look down and say, oh yeah, the sick day story, and you tell them the story. And I would say this, one last point about it. Do you think right now that I've rehearsed what I'm telling you? Do you think I'm looking at a script? Do you think I'm following cue cards, a teleprompter? Did I rehearse the last 45 minutes of what I'm saying? Word for word, like an actor, remembering every single thing I want to say. Do you think I'm doing that right now? Marla Keith says, you know this inside and out, and please make sure it's all shared with everyone. No, the answer is no. I am not, this is not rehearsed in the sense that I'm like remembering a script. We get caught up in the moment with interviews, big presentations, to memorize every single word. Say every word just right. I don't believe in that. I think that's very hard. And as soon as we miss a word, it throws us off and we get all out of sorts. What I would rather you do is have your stories. When you're telling your friend or your parent a story, it just comes out. You don't have to rehearse it. You were there. You did it. So you're telling your friend what happened. There is no more authentic way to present than to tell stories, because then you don't have to remember every single little word. You're just telling people what happened. Okay, so remember that. Don't get caught up in the perfect script every time. Lean on your stories, lean on your experiences, and the real you will come through. Now, let's hop over to a couple more quick topics. One is resume. How many of you will help students with resume for competition? Or just generally in your day-to-day classes? We have some resume competition. Let me tell you the most important tip on a resume that's almost never on a resume. Okay, I am a journalist by trade. I'm a communications professional. I believe deeply in a C word. I talk about it in here a lot. It's called context. People need context. One of the biggest pieces of information missing from almost every resume of all ages is an explanation on the name of the company where you worked or interned, or the name of the student group you were a part of. We are conditioned to just jump right in to what we achieved in that role, and we assume that the person knows where we worked. Would you agree with me that there are lots of companies out there you've never heard of? Raise your hand if you think there are companies in the world that you've never heard of before. And if someone told you their name, you would not know what they do. I believe that because I hear company names all the time, and I don't know what they do until someone tells me. Let me give you an example from like a working professional resume, just for the example. Okay, let's say they work in nonprofits, and we're calling it here nonprofit A. It could be called Acme Nonprofit, Star Nonprofit, some name, right? The first bullet point has to be a brief description on what that organization does. Part of an organization that raises more than $8 million annually for cancer research. Could we assume if we saw it said Star Nonprofit that they do cancer research or they raise money for such? Would we know by the name Star Nonprofit that the company, the nonprofit, raises money to cure cancer? Would that be obvious to us? So if the first thing they saw was grew the social media following from 247 to 5438, but we have no context for like what this group even does. All we get into is our achievements, but the reader's like, well, but what? Then they have to go Google it, right? You gotta be like, well, what is this company? Do you want to make judges and employers have to Google every company you list because you didn't tell them what they did? Is that going to make them like you more by making them do more work? What do you think? Like, ugh, what is this one? Da, 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 da. Okay, da, 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 okay. Oh, what about this one? Da, 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 da. Or would you rather just tell them right on the piece of paper? Which one do you think is better? Telling them right there or making them Google it? Which one do you think is a better communication strategy? Because I think it's telling them right there. And I'm telling you right now, listen to me closely. I've looked at many, many resumes in my brief existence. To a person, people almost never put an explanation on what the company does. They assume everyone just knows because they know everyone should know. Remember, there are thousands of companies and they're not all named Google, Uber, and McDonald's. They are small businesses. They are local businesses. They are businesses in the town across the river. Always explain. And if your resume does a great job explaining what it is, where it is you work, and what it is you did, the purpose of that company, your resume will be better, fuller, more explanatory, smarter, better. Okay. So hold on to that technique, and we'll have an example of that, this exact example, in the Google Doc that we'll send. Last thing, and then we'll head for home. How many of you will help students with elevator pitches about themselves over the course of competition? Anybody do elevator pitching about who you are, why you matter, what you're all about? Okay, let's talk about that. We again break it down. We have a strategy. We have a template. Please have students follow it if you agree. It's short and it helps students to describe not only who they are, but what's their why. Who's ever talked about their start? Whoever heard that book by Simon Sinek? Start with why. Why do you matter? Why do you do it? What's it all about? What's your why? This pitch helps explain our why. okay? The first line is it's called, Who Are You Really? I'm a junior at Acme High School, interested in computer science and technology. Okay, that's who you are right now. Then what do? We get into details. We focus on our language. You might say I'm a tech geek. I spent a lot of time in the school's computer lab. That's where we learn to deconstruct laptops and build them back together. I'm vice president of the campus computer club. I love to pick apart a motherboard or hard drive, help people with their computer challenges. Okay. Now I've shown this example before. Today it's in the context of competition. Can you tell me, look at this paragraph. Show me some key terms I've used to underscore that this student really enjoys computers. What words did I use? What specifics? What parts of computers? Show me the nouns. What nouns did I use? Give me some words in the chat. What did I include? Motherboard, says Mac. What else? Tech geek. What else? The club, the campus computer club, deconstructed. Thank you. So in this space, students need to get specific. Okay, don't just talk in high level. Let me tell you my least favorite expression in professional world. Ready for it? Highly motivated. I do not like that expression. Highly motivated means almost nothing. Get away from the adjectives. Let's get down into the nitty-gritty with the words that we own. How many students in their elevator pitch could say they're highly motivated, passionate, hardworking, and energetic? How many could say it in an objective statement, in an elevator pitch? How many could use those adjectives? Max says everyone. How many could write this exact paragraph right here? Word for word, how many students could write this exact paragraph? One. Most likely in the context of a competition, one. Right? We have to lean on what makes us unique. Remove the adjectives, remove the adverbs, highly, don't like that word. Get down to who you are. And then finally, bring them home. After I finish school, I hope to find a job that uses computers and the latest technology to make the world a smarter place. Let's think about that line. What's our why? Our why should be what we love to do and how what we love to do will one day impact the world, help somebody else. If you're not helping somebody else, you're not providing value to someone else. So the students should be thinking about, what's my why today? What do I hope to do tomorrow? That's the closing line of our elevator pitch about ourselves, okay? So please refer to this guide anytime you'd like to help students construct their own step 1, 2, and 3 to create a compelling, tight, focused, but compelling and memorable elevator pitch that hopefully will be a cut above everyone else. Okay. Now, let's head for home. It's 12:24 Eastern time. I want to reiterate what I mentioned at the very beginning. Go back to the top of our slides. Hit these one last time. Those of you who missed it, let me keep my chat going. Okay. Again, if you missed us at the jump, we have a set of resources, many of which we just covered. Okay. We just went over all of these. If you would like these resources in a Google folder for yourself and an online presentation checklist to add to the mix, we always give this out too. It's just a useful one sheet about how to give great presentations. If you missed it, please go to the chat, type interested and your email address. Interested and your email address. And if you are new to our community, we love to have a brief conversation to help you work this into your routine for the fall. Okay, just for the new folks, we have a quick call. We'll send you a Google invitation in the next 2 days. If it's not a good time, just respond back with a new time. It's a quick conversation. Just want to pass it along and say hello. Finally, our virtual internship series is back. A reminder that we did this all last year. We had huge attendance, hundreds, thousands of students there. And we're going to do them again. Starting on August 25th, we're going to cover different career pathways, talking about what people do in their jobs and also why employability skills matter in those jobs. So August 25th, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 Pacific. We're going to do the world of the trades with a woman named Nicole Shanks, who is workforce development manager at Ace Electric, an electrical contracting company in Georgia. And she's also worked in the field. So she will be our special guest. Finally, those who are here today and the students too will send out a certificate tomorrow, proof that you were here. Oh, I didn't know Matthew knew Nicole. So yeah, please tell Nicole that we're already promoting the webinar. We're already putting it out there. And we're going to do a big announcement on Monday for it, okay? Certificates coming tomorrow. And if you want the recording and you're watching this, if you want the resources and you're watching this on a recording, email support@rubineducation.com with the subject line Rubin CTSO worksheets, and we'll pass it on that way. Okay, let me pull back a few minutes before 12:30 Eastern. Are there any final questions? I see coming in the Q&A. Well, Matthew White asked, are resumes important to competition success? I would say just if that's a competition category. I don't know in other instances if it's asked for students to bring a resume, but when it is the actual category, like how good is your resume, then I hope these strategies would apply. Are there any other questions or comments, or we can wrap just a few minutes early, give you that time back. Precious last few minutes of summer for those who still have summer. Some of you do not, and I understand that. And I know I can probably ask all of you, did your summer go too fast? And the answer is yes. So I understand you there. And Marla said the resume is required for HOSA. So I hope that lesson will be well taken when it's time to put our resume together. Okay, I appreciate everybody being here. I hope you'll join us in 2 weeks for our kickoff to our virtual internship series. We'll have lots of students in the comments in the chat, and we'll launch the new school year and everything it brings with it. And I think you understand what I'm saying with that. So thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.